cooperation, community, creation. These are the values of the crew of the Mach 5, and these are their stories. Welcome to Making Things at Mach 5.
Yes.
Welcome to Making Things at Mach 5! Yeah, I'm gonna do that every week, I've decided. I may regret that, I may not, who knows. Hi, my name is Mikkel Snyder. I am the producer of this little production studio, MKV. I'm also the lead system designer, and I'm joined by two lovely humans who I'm gonna let introduce themselves.
Hey y'all, my name is Victoria Hennings, and I am the integration specialist here at MKV.
Hey everybody, I'm Keith Reed Cleveland, and I am the narrative designer here at MKV. Happy to be here, y'all.
So, if you're all loyal listeners, you may recognize us from our last project, This Week in Nerd News. More than likely, you don't recognize us from that project because we were a very niche nerd podcast that went on for a few years. We had a good run. We reached milestones, and then making a podcast about current events is really hard. But we really enjoyed the time that we spent together, and we really liked the chemistry we had as a trio. And during one of our many collaborative episodes, we came up with the metaphor that we are a mech, and we just sort of leaned into this as we are evolving into our next phase. So based on a shared love of TTRPGs and mechs, we wanted to make a mech game. So over the course of this year, we're going to be trying to document our process in making a game. So that's my lens of the situation. Keith, Victoria, if you want to chime in on our venture, feel free.
Well, first off, I don't think we can have loyal listeners yet because this is the first time. So, like, they can't be loyal if nothing's happened yet.
We do have
but
a sponsor already, though. We do have a fan.
Yes, we
true.
do. We specifically have a sponsor and a number one backer, which we appreciate very much. You know who you are out there. But second thought, just adding on to what you said earlier, I feel like I want to emphasize the fact that this started off completely as a bit, where I think like we were making the observation that like I think I may have kicked it off a little bit too. I'm thinking like Mikkel is one of the most like intellectually connected people that I know personally, and as far as friends go, and Victoria is one of the most emotionally intelligent people that I have in my life. If we were a mech suit, Mikkel will be the brain, Victoria will be like the torso, and then I guess I'm the limbs because I didn't know what else to do. And then we kind of refined and fine-tuned the idea from there. But yeah, like yes, and a lot more people. That's a good rule in life because it gets you places like this.
I mean, I agree with all of the things. I think another important bit of context is obviously a lot of how we came together was Black Nerd Problems and the Discord, but specifically through Mikkel's peer pressuring everyone into doing D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mikkel has run quite a few games for us, but then also Keith and I have been in a long-running campaign. I think our actual campaign ran for 4 years, and we just started up a new one with the same table that will probably be a couple of years. And so, like, gaming and TTRPGs in particular are really important to all three of us in different ways, but also all three of us together as a friendship group. And so I think that this makes a lot of sense of like, let's figure out how else we can tell stories. And I'm excited for this one. I'm excited to see what comes after. Like, yeah, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, like before the actual transition of TikTok ownership happened, there was a trend I noticed where a lot of people were doing a meme of like, when this very specific thing in life happens, say yes. And it's basically implying that like if you say yes to this decision, good things happen.
Mhm.
I really do think that saying yes to playing a D&D one-shot in Discord during the pandemic when I had never played a tabletop game before is one of those moments because it has positively impacted my life in countless and immeasurable ways at this point, this being one of them.
You can't really expect
Ditto.
what happens when you agree to DM for 12 people at a time, but here we are.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there were so many people.
I make it
Ooh.
work. I'm still not sure
Yeah.
how.
Yeah,
I
it
will
was great.
I will say, for any DMs there, a single adult is no, two adults is about the equivalent of a child. So like DMing six children takes the same amount of mental capabilities as DMing for 12 adults. Just for a future frame of reference, if you were wondering how that conversion works. So if you can DM four adults, you can DM two kids. At least baseline. Maybe you're better than me.
Math checks out.
So
To piggyback off that a little bit, I think more props to Mikkel's parenting skills, and that not only have we played, but now Keith and I have DM'd a couple of games as well in different spaces. So yeah, I feel like that's the latter, right? Is like make us somewhat like, I don't know about this decision to play in a one shot, end up in a long term campaign, DM a little bit. I can make
Travel
my
the
own thing,
country.
right? This is going to be fine. Yeah, travel the country, do some like live actual plays.
Yeah.
We've done the thing, and now it's our turn to make a thing. And Mikkel, you have made several things
yeah.
before, correct?
Yeah, so the context behind all of this is that as someone who has loved games for a very, very long time, I have dabbled around in different game adjacent spaces. I've made my own modules, I have DM'd several times, I have hacked systems, I have uh made escape rooms in my house, which is always a fun thing to do. Not really role playing, but kind of role playing, having to entertain people and keep them engaged, as it were. But not last year because last year was 2025 somehow. But in 2024, I did a project that was 12 pages, infinite options, and I made a single page RPG a month for a year just to see if I could. Um, and if you know me, this was not difficult for me. It is just something that like I sat down and did, and some were good, and some were questionable, and some were bad. But the point of it was not to make a good thing. The point of it was to make things and to see what sticks. And one of the things that really stuck was a game that was called Forge. And it was inspired very heavily by Soul Eater and Pacific Rim, and then there was still some Power Rangers and Gundam influences as well. But I became really obsessed with this idea of a cooperative gaming system, one where there was a lot more skill involved in like succeeding in things. So a lot of the things that we think about when it comes to tabletop role playings is a lot of math rocks. And I love math rocks. Who doesn't love the clattering of dice on the table and then doing basic arithmetic repeatedly? Um, I wanted something different, and I thought of like match games a lot. I thought about those old like psychic reading tests where like you're trying to like produce the same card and trying to like be in sync with your partner or partners, as it were. So the original idea for Forge was based on sort of like, what if you had a deck and your job was to like try to get as many matching things with your counterpart as like the DM is guiding you through some sort of narrative where you are a Meister and weapon, you are two mecha pilots, what have you. And then as we were coming back to the what are we gonna do after our recap podcast was over and we said like let's make a game, it's sort of like I'm not done with this idea, so I'm gonna make it everyone's problem. So for the past about month, I have just been riffing on what a TTRPG system looks like if it was just a deck of cards or multiple decks of cards. We'll get to that. But yeah, so it made sense, right? This was a trio founded on like cooperation and being in sync and weird jokes and yes anding and just trying to like figure out where the hell the other person is going at any given time. So it felt like the right vibe to bring to this project. I stand by that. Uh, Side note, we had discussed this already like several months ago, and everyone agreed. So this is not as new information to my cohorts as it is to you, listener, watcher. I don't know. We'll find a term for you later. But yeah. So uh, are y'all ready to hear what I've been thinking about?
Are you asking if I want to hear what wonderfully evil machinations you come up with? The answer is absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Um. So Cassie Moffwin is a St. Louis game designer who did a talk at the St. Louis Independent Comics Expo back in 2023. Time is fake. But one of the things that she talked about was this idea that a lot of games have oracles, which is the way that you resolve uncertainty in a game. And a lot of that, like we talked about, is resolved with dice in a standard D20 system. But anything that can be randomly generated can be an oracle. And I really liked the idea of like a deck of cards as a oracle because I think uh, it's a different sensation. It makes a lot more sense in like this matching thing. You have control over the ability to like what you play in your hand. When you have a deck of cards, you have a hand of cards. That's just one of those things. Um, and one of the things that as I was looking around at like other inspiration, sort of like it's very easy to sort of like have a deck of cards be an oracle. It does mean a lot of tables. It does mean like having a lot of permutations, like what do the different suites mean? What do the different ranks mean? How does that interact with one each other? But I thought that we have a very good team between Keith and Victoria, that it would make sense that they could make a lot of cool tables that could have a lot of interesting interactions and conflicts. And I don't know what any of those tables are going to be about yet, but I don't need to because that's later. Right now, we're just talking about core game mechanics. So uh, one thing that was important to me is that I wanted this to be a system that could exist in several tiers of like the player modality. I wanted this to be accessible for like solo players, for the groups that don't have a DM, and the groups that do have a DM. I've seen Iron Sworn as a system that does a really good job of having those free tiers, and it's very easy to like switch between them. So it's like, yeah, this makes sense to me. Um, as I was thinking about like the core mechanics, I didn't want an understanding of other card games to be a prerequisite to this system. So I didn't want to reference poker hands. I didn't want to reference spade rules or hearts rules. I wanted to be sort of like the deck of cards is more of a just like it could have been anything. It could have been like bespoke decks. We could make custom things. And like the idea is that like it's a game of matching at the end of the day. It is like you staring down your co-pilot on the other side of the table. It's sort of like, we need to both play aces, otherwise the ship's gonna blow up. And you both play aces, and then you celebrate, and then sort of like, and then the opposite happens. It's sort of like I'm playing a 2, you're playing like an 8. It's sort of like nothing matches. What are we gonna do now?
It's a very high stakes go fish.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I thought there was like really cool opportunities. So like with character creations, I think it is reasonable to expect people to like source a deck of cards. It is a relatively well, compared to dice, buying a single deck of cards is so much cheaper than buying math rocks.
And more accessible too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of like as like character creation and character advancement, having the ability to like mark cards. So that way, like this was something I stole from Balatro. We can take inspirations from other games. We have to. There's nothing new under the sun. But like maybe making it such that like, okay, so I can mark this card and now it is a all of the face cards, or it is all of the red things. It's all of the black things. It's like this is a Joker. Like this will always succeed. And having that ability to like customize your mech by customizing your deck. And then I like the idea of like the deck representing everything as its whole. So like the deck is your life total. So you're trying to manage your deck as a resource. It is everything. Um, and as far as like character action, so like a lot of it is driven by like your drawing cards and your matching cards. I wanted to have like really easy keyword things that could be balanced around the concept of card advantage of like how many cards are you drawing and getting rid of at anything. So like having really easy to understand like keyword action. So like scry, like being able to look at the top cards of your deck and selecting one. Milling, getting rid of the top cards of your deck. Drawing and discarding, which is called cycling in Magic the Gathering. I think we can call it cycling here. I like this concept of like signaling, where like you have so many hearts. So what if I toss out a heart as a signal to like let you know, like, hey, this do this. And then like yeah, and like have like a reshuffle ability to be sort of like, okay, so you have to like repair. So when you repair, you reshuffle your deck and you restock on your available actions. And then uh this one was the later into it. But this idea of like filtering what sort of like at the start of like the out of a combat session or an interaction, like you draw a card and then you have to get rid of all of like the fours or something and like reduce your options. And like that comes with power because you now have like more consistent draws, but then you also lock yourself out of things and you might not have an option. Um, and again, all of this is like conceptual, but it felt very tangible and it felt like it could fit on a sheet of paper. And as someone who plays a lot, I wanted this game to be accessible via a sheet of paper. We will eventually publish like a PDF that is more than a sheet of paper, but there is something appealing about like not needing to like reference 17 different books and being able to inject your own flavor of like what is crying to your character, what is milling to your character, what does it mean to like reshuffle, like how does the mech prepare itself, and like giving like the flavor to the player agency and just having like these like frameworks to build up. So like the idea behind it, right, is that there would be a story deck. Each of the players would have their deck. So like the story deck, you would like flip maybe like 2 or 3 cards over and like, okay, so this table says like, okay, your mech team has run into a giant kaiju. And the kaiju can fly and sort of like what can you do to combat this? And then like setting up your decks, figuring out like what different checks means. And there's a lot of stuff that we have to figure out, sort of like what do any of the things mean? How do we get there? But I feel like the core of it made sense. And like this idea of sort of like there are different degrees of success when you're playing this matching game. There is like nothing matches, but then like you have a decent chance of matching color, and you have a decent chance of matching suite, maybe rank, maybe the exact number, maybe the exact card. Uh, and like having it be such that like there is different ways to like progress and having that like success with a failure or failure with some sort of like advantage, something like that. And then it gets really fun when you have like multiple people like in conversation with each other. So it's like, okay, so what happens if me and Keith are like perfectly matched, but like me and Victoria like are completely out of sync? Like, what does that mean? I don't know, but it's a really cool idea there. So yeah, that's sort of like the foundation of it, and like character advancement being like you get additional actions that you can do, and you can pick like, okay, I want to scry this turn, I want to mill this turn, or like I have a really strong social bond with one particular partner, so I'm going to use that ability. Um, the more and more as I was like thinking about all of these things, like this was originally supposed to be like more open-ended, and so like no, this really does feel like a mech system at the end of the day, or just sort of like this is about like you are independently piloting something that is very, very massive and trying to work in coordination with someone else. So that's where I think our friendship was founded, and that's where I think our game should be founded too. So I get to stop talking for a second and get people to ask me questions. So
I like it. Nice full circle.
Yeah.
It's good. Do you want to go, Keith, or do you want me to go?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, you said that you had given us a little bit beforehand. I want to stress that this was so much more than you gave us beforehand. I got my pencil out. I'm like, I need to take notes.
Well, all of my notes
No.
are in the drive that you can get if you join our Patreon for $1.
There we go.
We're bad at
Yeah,
this. We're
true.
learning. It's fine.
True. It's I think there's so many questions in my brain right now. My brain is going very quickly. But I think a couple of things that I thought about while you were talking. One, in like the different, I guess they're both kind of in different types of play, but one is around people and one is around time. I like the idea that you could add on to your mech team or like your pilot team, as it were, so that you have multiple people working together, or you could potentially like not necessarily fight each other, but like be rivals towards a goal, right? Like you could have two groups of two pilots, right? Who are all trying to get to the end goal and who's going to get there faster. And then as far as time goes, the way that it's set up kind of reminds me of those 30 minutes or less games. And so it's like you could play that way. You could play for longer, but you could also stack, right? So you could be like, okay, we're going to do 30 minutes this week, and then we'll come back. And that's kind of like a section of our journey. And then next time we'll try and get to the next moon or whatever the goal may be. And I think that's one of the things that can be inhibiting sometimes is the time commitment. And so being able to play with that in a way that feels sustainable and consistent and like, yes, I'm going to make this character, I'm going to make this mech. I don't have to be playing for 4 hours every week. In order to progress in a story, I can just take bite-sized chunks. I think that that's really cool.
And I think a few things that you said are very cool. And piggybacking off what Victoria just said, I like the idea that this is a game that can be played. If someone's just bored, snowed in by themselves, like at home, in theory, they could just pick this up and just do their own adventure of like, I'm going to start off building a mech. And I like an idea of exploring potentially the idea that you have the standard default thing, and there might be like different suits that lead to different strengths or whatever and stuff like that. And you build that over time the way you want it to be. But I like the idea that like, if you want to extend it, there's like maybe even optional storylines, and this is the narrative part of my brain kicking in, where like there could be MacGuffins that you get that could be really good boons or boosts for your character and for your mech and everything. Like if you go down this side quest, you might get access to like a really powerful weapon that you might want to use or something along those lines. And that can be a way to make this, it can go either way. I like the variety that we have here. It can be like a one-shot situation from anywhere from one to a couple players, or it could be something where like the long-term campaign or whatever, where like the goal for this session that's going to take however long it takes is to get this thing. And then the overarching thing is to work our way up to the BBEG. So I think that that's something that would be really beneficial because in my experience playing TTRPGs, one of the biggest obstacles is finding, when I run games especially, is finding the right kind of adventure that's going to fit for the right amount of players and also for the time commitment that they're able to give at that point in time. So I think flexibility is the key here. That's what we're looking for and all that stuff.
So quick show of hands, who has ever had a one shot actually just be a one shot and not like a 7-shot? Oh.
I actually have, but like usually because it wasn't about choice. It was like, oh, we're all on vacation together. Let's just like do this for today because I'm not going to be in the same room as you all for the next 7, 8, 9, 12 months and stuff, you know? So like that was out of necessity.
I am able to do one-shots by planning my story and then going back and cutting it usually at least in quarters, and putting ending spots at each one of those quarters, and then seeing where we get. Because usually we can at least get to the first quarter, right? And so I'll have
Yes.
an ending planned for if we get there. And then if we get to half, if we get to three quarters, if we get to the full story, but so that each section I have an ending that feels like a full story.
Okay.
That's the only way I can do it.
That's fair.
Yeah, sure.
I have also been. It's been a very long time since I've been in a one shot that didn't really want to be a two shot or a free shot at the
Yeah.
end.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
always possible, for sure. It's just a matter of like, okay, am I disciplined enough to cut this off or not?
So,
And the answer is usually no, but every now and then it's yes.
but yeah, I when I was thinking and just sort of spitballing, so like I want it to be something that's easy to pick up and play. I want it to be something that like has this like skill ceiling. Well, it's sort of like if you like figure out like your other partners, if you like get your skills in sync, that like yeah, you can easily destroy the deck, and then maybe you have to like figure out other ways to make it interesting.
Mhm.
And that's something that we'll figure out as we play test and balance throughout the year. But like as a foundation, so if I the core idea of sort of like you just want to match cards, and like that is the simplest thing in the world, but there's a lot of nuance that goes into it. There's a lot of opportunity to make that exciting and interesting and have those moments is sort of like uh, if I play one card, am I going to match with everyone? Am I just going to match with my immediate partner? Like what are things? So
Yeah. I have a question for you, Miguel.
okay.
Excuse me, terrible timing. You mentioned that this is your like second or third iteration of this idea in some capacity. I'm curious to what lessons you've learned in those different experiences that you're applying this time around and going from there.
The first iteration of this, and I would have to rummage through my drive, was more of a narrative thematic thing, where it was very much just how do I get Soul Eater to be compatible with a D&D thing?
Mhm.
Soul Eater is great. Soul Eater is like one of the two primary inspirations of when I was thinking of this. The other one being Pacific Rim, which is my favorite movie ever. So like the first iteration, which was like, I just want this sense of like what is a world that is conducive to deep bonds, essentially? Like how do you stage a world such that like there is a narrative impetus that like you are working closely together and your success depends on you working closely together. And that was very much like just textual fluff. It wasn't a system, it was just an idea, and I let the idea simmer. So when I went back to Forge February 2024, it's just like, how do we get to that? And we got to that with this core matching system that I had talked about, where it was very much like, if this needs to fit on a page, it needs to be understandable in a page. So it's just be like, this is how matching works. This is what happens if you match A, B, and C, which is great and is a perfect foundation for a system that is intended to be like a 30-minute thing, like Victoria was saying. When we wanted to pitch a full game, it's just sort of like, okay, how do we make this more involved, but in a way that is still accessible and is still like manageable? Because if you have played D&D, it gets very unmanageable very quickly because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different things. So it was thinking about like this. I haven't christened the system yet. It's probably going to be something silly called the match system at the end of the day, or something like that. We can figure out marketing terms later. But the idea was sort of like, the next iteration of like matching is sort of like, how do we give control to the player such that like they can like make it easier or harder to interact with the cards? And that's where this concept of like filtering came through. It's just like, how do you like make it more difficult? What are the sacrifices? If you are good at deck manipulation, can you use that to your advantage? Will it backfire? Who knows? In the original Forge, I always had a signal in mechanic. Like every time you would have to like signal a card, such that like you would get into situations where like maybe you had like maybe you just had like a really widespread, so like the card that you signal wasn't actually like useful information, and that was part of like the trappings of it. So it's like, okay, maybe we don't want that. Maybe it's more fun if it's sort of like you're just blind and like very much like the beginning of every single like mech story where like you first pair it up, you don't know what the other person's thinking. Sort of like you are literally just throwing a shot into the dark and seeing if your partner matches. Um, so like you wouldn't get a chance to signal. Signaling is something that you would like do after you've developed a rapport with a person, and like you will be able to like do that like cheeky wink that lets them know it's like, yeah, we need to like book it or like whatnot. So parsing out like some of those actions was one of the key things in development. And also like I think when it clicked, it's just sort of like I like player agency a lot. I like giving players tools and like letting them figure out the toolkit and how they work. So in my vision, right, like if you succeeded in getting the MacGuffin, you found the treasure chest, and you get to advance your character. In my head, sort of like, okay, you get to create an action that like has such and such like balancing around it. What's sort of like, well, now I can like signal two cards, but if I do that, I have to like discard cards. Like being able to like mix and match those keywords and sort of like, well, I want to like have this ability to like reshuffle my deck because I don't want to have things run out, and like balancing around that and giving the players like here are things that you can do, and we won't tell you like preset things. You can bash it together. You make this your own. You make the ace custom that you always wanted. So
Very cool. Thank you. I am currently trying to imagine what a cheesy wink that translates to "let's get out of here" looks like.
I don't know if that's gonna
Just a
catch
random
the
geek
video.
thought. All good. I mean, I'm not gonna try it. I wouldn't think, because I don't know how that would look. Just a random thought I had during there, but that was not my main takeaway. I do appreciate the answer very much, friend. Thank you. That's also very inspiring.
So, it's obviously a working process. There are no numbers right now. There needs to be numbers. There needs to be regulations and things. So yeah, but it is our first meeting of this particular project called Mach 5. Am I gonna get tired if I do it every time? I will. So we're just gonna do it once an episode from here on out, and that's good. We know this about ourselves now.
We love a
Right.
bit. That's how we got here.
We love a bit. We
Gotta love a
truly love
bit.
a bit.
hmm
So yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm looking ahead. We also know like there's going to be a bunch of different things that we talk about in these episodes about the development of the game as it goes on and stuff. Like right now, we're in the very early stages, so it's very, very much like game mechanics and design focused. There will be numerous times talking about the narrative and different elements that we're batting around there. We're going to talk about how it all comes together, like speed bumps that we'll inevitably run into and how we overcame those. So yeah, like again, plugging our Patreon that we're going to make, which does exist as of now, and feel free to get more behind the scenes looks into what we're doing and how we're making a game. Because I think the one thing I want to emphasize too is that we are doing this for fun because we're trying to make a game that we would also want to play. This is not us trying to cash in all of our nerd cred to become millionaires or anything like that, right? Like, which I wouldn't be mad at, of course. It would be very funny if we could look back on this episode one day and like, look at that. That's how we started. But ultimately, my takeaway from this is that I get to spend time collaborating with people who I enjoy collaborating with, very good friends of mine, and we get to have something to show at the end of it. We're like, look, we made a thing, right?
Yeah, I think for me, in a similar vein, I think we talk a lot about the idea of representation matters, and often that is maybe like race-based or orientation-based, something like that. I think there's also something to be said about just the importance of seeing people do things to do things. I think that we all know that Victoria will rage about capitalism when given the chance. I'll hold
I was
myself
waiting
in.
for it. I was
But
waiting for it.
I don't think you need to
generally
rein
speaking,
yourself
though,
in. I'm just saying we don't have a time limit. We are the masters of
Yeah.
our own design right now.
Yes.
fair. I feel like often because of the society that we live in, very specifically in the United States, but also kind of generally in the West, air quotes, West, there's this idea that if something isn't giving you capital, then it's not valuable. And I think that that is incorrect in so many ways. But often, in order to break that idea pattern in your brain, you have to see people doing things just for fun. We talk a lot about how we have kind of lost the ability to play. And part of that is because there's no time because I have to get something done, or I have to do work, or I have to do this or do that. And so I think for me, as a person who has a very hard time with that, really specifically saying no, like, this is time just to play and have fun and hang out with my friends and to make something for the sake of creating and to document that process so that other people feel like they can do the same thing. I think that's really cool.
I think this episode really encapsulates the whole mech metaphor that we were making very early on. Just want to say that. This is all on brand.
Yeah. So, I guess we can pivot to sort of like our like broad-based timeline in which we have like exactly 2 milestones set in stone right now and nothing else.
Yeah.
But right now the plan is that we want to do a beta test sometime over the summer, so specifically July. I have a group of friends who I teach varieties of non D&D related RPG systems. So I'm just gonna hijack one of those sessions and say like, we're playing my system that I made up with my friends earlier this year. Sorry if you wanted something polished, that's not on the table. And then
Beta testing.
we love beta testing. And then in at the end of the year, regardless of how far we get or how far we don't get, we're gonna release an ashcan, just a PDF. It's sort of like here's the game, have fun, and once we release that into the world, we will I think we'll go around back and discuss whether or not we are going to iterate on it or we'll do something else for our making things at Mach 5. Who knows what the future holds other than like this year it's a game. This year very specifically it is a tabletop RPG.
Yes. We still start what we know, play to our strengths.
So I've got questions, but I'm wondering, I think they might feel a little bit better in a blog post, if I'm honest.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I know we're getting a little crunchy on game mechanics, but this is crunchy in a different sense that I think might be better to read through.
And where can they read it?
They can read it on our Patreon.
Which, if you're watching this video, it means you're already on the Patreon, technically. We might need to.
But you never know. This
rethink our
might get
rollout.
clipped somewhere. This
Yeah,
could get clipped somewhere. And
maybe.
hey, check out our Patreon.
Maybe. But yeah, and I think, let's see. So our Patreon is MK_V Productions.
Which is not our email because that email was already gone. But
yeah. Maybe we'll make them match before this goes live, and you'll get an editing voice, Victoria, a little voiceover.
So like black screen words. Our actual email is this.
Right. But yeah, I think maybe one question. I've got a closeout question. So if there's anything else that we want to say, we should say it, and then I'll close us out with a question.
I'm good.
Keith,
I
how
like to tease the
excited are
folks so they
you to
come back
make
for
so
more.
many tables?
Oh, I'm actually very, very excited because I think for me, creatively, I've been done a lot of writing for my career, whether personally, professionally, all those things. But for me, a struggle has always been the idea creation part at the very end, in the very beginning. So like if I have an idea, I can execute that and just see it all the way through and it's going to be wonderful. But I think because we're collaborating here and we already have the idea of what we want to do going, that's great. So I'm so excited to like now flesh that out and just try a bunch of different things. So yes, it will be a lot of work, of course, but also it's the kind of work that you love. And that are the answer you were expecting?
I mean, yeah, no, that's good. I think now, Victoria, I think you can close us out now. So,
Well, that was also very similar to my closeout question, which was what do we each find exciting about game design? Like going into this, like at some point, we're going to be in the suck of making a game, right?
Yes.
So I want to, at the beginning, have recorded why we're excited about game design in general.
Revisit it and we're in those dark days. And I was
Yes.
like, why am I doing this again? Like, oh yeah, remember
Mhm.
that back then when I was all happy and
Mhm.
optimistic and you can see the light in my eyes?
Mhm. I'm sorry, there are 54 cards. I did 52.
Yeah,
I
because we're including jokers,
awesome.
I'm
Great.
assuming.
Mhm.
I did not mention the fact that like this game will eventually be compatible with tarot decks. We'll discuss that later. Um,
All right.
I like it. I
we
like
can
it.
we can end with that, I guess.
no,
Uh,
I think we
I
should
think
answer
the
Victoria's
important part
question.
about that is that a tarot deck is 78 cards. I think that's why that was mentioned at that particular point in time.
I knew it was more than 54. I just didn't know how many.
Um, to answer Victoria's question, one of the nice things about games is that games have rules and games have means of like interaction. And a lot of the times, when I was growing up, it was hard to like enter spaces without knowing the rules, not knowing like how best to interact with someone. And in the context of a game, it was always very easy to sort of like, oh, we are now speaking the same language. We are now interacting with each other in a way that like I can like not mess up and I can feel like I can interact with you and then that can lead to like everything else down the line. Like games were always a open hand, a way to start a conversation. And the reason I like playing role playing games a lot so that you can play around with the sense of self and your relationships with others within this confine. So like making games has always been sort of like how do I connect with people? And like in this case it is quite literally focused on that very intently. That's not always the case when I'm doing game design, but like for this one in particular, it's sort of like how do you make a game that connects people? Because in a time where lots of things suck for a lot of reasons, the things that keep us sane are our connections with everyone else. So that's why I game design, I guess.
All right, Keith, what you got?
Um, I guess kind of to piggyback off of what I was saying earlier, I just love the idea that when we're done with this, there will be essentially a world that exists outside of us. That's something we can share with the people that like we give them the foundations for with like the mechanics that we're talking about now, the different kind of like characters, for lack of a more appropriate word here, the settings, the conflict needs to be resolved. But after that, we're kind of giving it to the people, and like Mikhail said earlier, giving them agency. And I'm excited to seeing what ideas people might come up with that, and the potential that might come from those things. Because we could play the game ourselves for like months on end, but we're not going to cross every possibility and every option and everything, right? So yeah, that's something that I'm potentially excited for.
I agree with all of those things. I think the thing that I would add that I really like about game design is, and I think Keith, you touched on this a little bit earlier, like taking the thing from your brain. My brain is often going too fast, and doing too many things all at the same time. And not all of them are positive. And so I think that game design allows me to focus on things and work through things, and process things in a way that I really appreciate. And so, yeah, it is, game design is a positive coping mechanism.
We love to hear it.
All right, that ends our first episode at Making Things at Mach 5. We're gonna stop recording and then discuss what we're gonna do with all of this footage, and you'll hear back from us next month. So until then, we need to figure out a catchy sign off.
We do.
Peace.
Works for now.
Yeah, works for now. Yeah.
Listener of unknown time and location, if you wish to keep receiving transmissions, please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you wish for more access into our database, you can follow on Patreon for behind-the-scenes footage of our prep for these episodes and access to our Google Drive where you can see our design docs in real time, as well as eventual early access to Mecha Matches Beta. Now, go forward at Mach 5.